to the weather now. It's Hurricane Preparedness Week right here in Maine.
Meteorologist Christian Bridges joins us now to tell us some things we can do right now so we aren't stressing if a hurricane threatens Maine this summer or fall. So is hurricane season started yet?
Not yet. It starts on June 1st. So we're getting really close. You know, also the start of meteorological summer, and then it goes all the way through November 30th. So it's a good time to start thinking about this now. And it's the National Hurricane Center's Hurricane Preparedness Week all week this week. And it's been a long time, you guys. 1991, that was the last hurricane landfall in New England. We are very, very overdue for a hurricane impact. So that's why it's so important to be prepared before the season, because, you know, it's been a long time. So it's good to get prepared now. And in case a hurricane does threaten, which, you know, we're not explicitly predicting, but it is a possibility any season. And this year, with an above average hurricane season forecast yet again, it is a good idea to start thinking about being prepared. So you can see here's our forecast. We'll start with that. We've got 17 named storms forecast here. Normally we see 14. We've got the Colorado State University hurricane forecast also forecasting 9 hurricanes. It's above the normal of 7, and 4 major hurricanes, which is above the normal of 3. So probably not going to be an extremely active season, but definitely busier than a typical season. That's how it's looking right now. So, you know, we're not quite to hurricane season just yet, but it is a good time to start thinking about it. And of course, we just talked about all the coastal storm impacts. Impacts from a hurricane will be very similar to those January storms that we saw. So again, hurricanes, even though you may think, oh, okay, it's just a coastal thing, if you live up in the interior of the state, especially up in the mountains, a good idea to start thinking about flood protection, because back in 2011, we had Hurricane Irene that hit the Northeast. Vermont hit incredibly hard. It would not be you know, unthinkable to see a similar event here, where it's mainly inland areas that get hit the hardest due to that flood threat. So consider where you live. Consider the threats. If you live along the coast, of course, that's going to be the storm surge. Of course, probably that's where you'll get the strongest winds as well. Not as much of a concern here in Maine, but could always be tornadoes with any tropical cyclone that moves through. Flooding from heavy rain, that's a big concern for us because we've got mountains, and that sort of squeezes out all the moisture from a hurricane, and that leads to flash flooding there. So even away from the coast, this is a threat. And again, it's a good idea to know if you live in a flood-prone area. If you go to the beach, any beach here in Maine, you'll see the signs that say, you know, evacuation route with a little hurricane symbol. And it's a good idea to, you know how to get out of your town in case a hurricane does threaten. So have an evacuation plan. That's step 1. Make sure your home is prepared for this sort of thing. You know, maybe you got some damage over the winter from something. Good idea to get that fixed now before any potential tropical cyclone would threaten. Again, your home, you want it to be in the strongest possible situation here before hurricane season. And you want to have insurance for all of your possessions, your home, your car, valuables. Document them as well. Good idea to take pictures of everything just in case. Just have them in the back of your phone. You know, it wouldn't take that long, just a few minutes walking around your house. And assemble disaster supplies. It's always good to have a kit. Actually, last year when we did our hurricane special, part of what I did for that was talking to the York County Emergency Management about what to have in your hurricane prep kit. So first aid kit, definitely very important. Cash, so important, because, you know, when the whole state loses power, you know, you're not swiping your card anywhere. And water, food as well, non-perishable items, a flashlight, good idea to have, although at least our phones always have that. So make sure you've got that portable charger. Always good to have that.
And I remember covering that hurricane back in 2011 because we were, of course, along the coast. And I remember we were all going, oh, man, we dodged a bullet. It wasn't that bad. And then all of a sudden, the video and the pictures start coming out in Vermont. And we're like, oh, my, what?
Yep.
We were all shocked at the damage that was taking place in Vermont, so far away from what we thought was going to be the most damage was along the coast.
Exactly. I know. So it goes to show hurricanes are not just a coastal threat. And even just a few months ago, Hurricane Helene, the worst impacts by far from that were in North Carolina, up in the mountains. So far, far away from the coastline. So yeah, if one is threatening us, definitely something to prepare for, even if you live, you know, out in Raymond or up in the mountains. Good idea to always be prepared.
Yeah, and the good news living along the coast, because the water's cold, it's not fueling that hurricane, so it starts to die down. And that's the good news about living up here.
That is a great point. And so, yeah, usually, honestly, the nor'easters impact us worse than hurricanes, but again, never let your guard down. We've still seen really big impacts from them right here in Maine. And if you've got any weather or maybe hurricane-related questions you'd like to ask the Weather Authority team, you can email us at weather@wgme.com.
I just wonder if there's going to be a Hurricane Christian. That's what
No, it's not allowed. I'm not allowed to have a hurricane name, you guys.